let's dive into this class because it is interesting. And again, there's not, that top type of guy who's going to be, the day one starter as an X on the outside, and you're going to, run the offense through. It doesn't seem like there's going to be that guy. There's some guys who, could, fill some good roles, but, that high caliber, top of, top 5, top 10, it is just not going to be there. The guy who has been the wide receiver 1 on most boards, and if you're looking at, grinding the mocks, has, been the wide receiver 1, the mocked first, is Jaxon Smith-Njigba from Ohio State. And he is one of the more interesting cases because there's a lot of things in this profile, right? He was great in 2021. It doesn't play at all in 2022. He kind of led an offense in 2021 that also had Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, who were first round picks. Ended up, one of them was offensive rookie of the year. You could have made a case the other one could have been offensive rookie of the year. So you have all of that. You kind of have what Smith-Njigba is in that offense, which was a guy who played 86% of his snaps in the slot. So almost exclusively a slot player, but also that was kind of because of Wilson and Olave, right? It's not, I think Smith-Njigba is a slot player, but he's not a slot only player, right? Like, he has traits, I think, that can win on the outside. He just didn't need to. And again, this kind of goes back to the CJ Stroud conversation we had, where it's like, he didn't need to go on the outside because of what Ohio State had on offense, but I don't think we should count that against him. So there's also the speed element where, he's not a fast straight line guy. But, at his pro day was like, what, a 4.53, which is fine, right? I think like the way people were talking about Smith-Njigba, like going into the combine and everything, was that he was going to run like a 4.6 or like a Keenan Allen 4.7 or something. And that's just not the case. And then he did the agility drills, which were, top marks there, where he was incredible in change of direction. And that shows up on the film too. So if you have someone like that, who's a good route runner, can change direction like that. Like, there were some like Jarvis Landry comps people were trying to throw out like before the combine. And Jarvis Landry was just like a bad athlete who kind of had to have that shallow A-dot slot role because of that. And that's not JSN. They're two very different types of players, and especially athletically. So I think there's a lot to like here. I think he'd be my wide receiver 1. So when you were diving into this, because I know you've done all the models and breaking down kind of what this production is, what are your feelings on JSN?
Yeah, I think he's clear the clear wide receiver 1 in this class. I agree with you. I think he can play outside and he can get vertical. I think he is more suited to play like that inside role, and like you can do it like, I hate to just label everything like the Cooper Kupp role, but like Cooper Kupp plays a lot of slot, but gets vertical targets, right?
Yeah.
Like, gets vertical targets out of the slot, so he can win that way. I think he's made to play inside, but can get play vertical slot as well. I think the floor is probably someone like Amon-Ra St. Brown, like, right, like. That's probably the floor you're getting, and then the ceiling you're getting is potentially, someone maybe like a Cooper Kupp-ish type player. I mean, he was a 5-star recruit too. Like, this dude was like, he didn't just like come out of nowhere. Obviously, Ohio State is plucking these wide receivers like out of like the ultimate wide receiver tree right now. And you look at Marvin Harrison and him coming up next year, and we'll end up talking about him next year. But so Smith-Njigba, like, all it does is he just takes a little bit of projection for how much outside he'll actually play. I mean, he ran 15 total pass routes, with 2 or fewer wide receivers on the field at Ohio State, because that's the system he was in, right? He had 15 catches that didn't come out of the slot in his college career. He wasn't a big touchdown guy in this class, and I don't know if that would have happened this year, especially with Marvin Harrison on the team. That's like really the only knock in production in his profile is that he just wasn't like a huge like touchdown rate guy. But again, small sample stuff. He would be definitely the top guy. I think he's in the more like don't overthink it guy. He may not be like Jamar Chase, but I think he's got a really high floor paired with still a high ceiling if you can get him in the right offense and right role where you can get some of those vertical targets. because to be the Amon-Ra plus, right? Because that's all we're missing with like a guy like Amon-Ra is like people always comp him to Cooper Kupp, but he hasn't gotten the vertical targets yet, like through 2 years in the NFL. Like we can get that, like we believe he's still capable of it, but just hasn't got him yet. And that's what we want to just see happen. The offense give him those vertical options.
Right, and that's probably going to come down to what offense he's put in, because I think Amon-Ra St. Brown probably could do it, but being that piece in the Jared Goff, Lions offense, which is, it works, and that's why it worked so well. And again, he was still sixth in receiving yards. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown was still very good last year, and that role was a very productive one. And yeah, I think you can put Jaxon Smith-Njigba like right in that type of role. If that's
it also shouldn't be a knock, right? Like I don't want anyone to like bristle and say like that's like a slight, especially in today's NFL where we've talked about last week with the quarterbacks how defenses have changed. Like nobody's blitzing, not less man-to-man coverage, a lot of zone, a lot of shallow A-dot stuff in general, even for good wide receivers, right? So like don't treat that as a knock. Like if we're saying like bring up guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Keenan Allen, like don't say like, oh well, I'm not drafting.
Those are good receivers. Like, those are really good receivers.
Absolutely.
And I like, yeah. So there is the long speed part of it, but there's not a position I care less about for the 40 than wide receiver, because it's all about that leverage and whether you can find space, whether you can create the separation. And you don't need speed. Some guys do need speed to do that, but some guys don't. I mean, you kind of look at like the JSN highlight is that the Penn State catch and run, right? He wins off the line, shakes the guy off the line, safety coming down, takes a bad angle, and he completely moves past him. And then he gets caught from behind, but still like a 60-yard catch and run, which is fine. Could it have been a couple more yards with a little more long speed to score a touchdown? Sure, but like we're not going to knock the guy for that. It like he has so many traits that are going to, I think, instantly be translatable to an NFL offense. And then you kind of just go back to the production. So I put together, target yards added every year, which is just what a wide receiver kind of adds to his offense. What quarterbacks average when they throw to the receiver, so just yards per target, stacked against what the quarterback does when throwing to anyone else. And the Ohio State offense in 2021 averaged 6.03 more yards per play when they threw to Jaxon Smith-Njigba than when the offense threw to anyone else. And that was the offense that included Garrett Wilson, that included Chris Olave. 6 more yards per play to JSN. That's insane. And so when the highly rated receivers are also highly rated in that type of metric, that's a great thing. 4.4 yards per route run that year. That's insane. This is a guy who knows has the nuance of the receiver position. That's just going to translate. So yeah, it feels like a very easy wide receiver one. And I think more people are kind of coming around to that. As we get, further along in the process and people kind of go back to the 2021, because I think it was a little, out of sight, out of mind a little bit in 2022 when he wasn't playing. But just what he's been able to do and how it translates to a modern NFL offense, I think it's kind of a no-brainer here.